Welcome back to another tutorial, guys. Got another image sent in by All About Wanderlust. So let's get over to their Instagram. I'll talk a bit about their style, key aspects to their style, and yeah, a few of their images. So coming down, you can see there's a really strong fade to those blacks there. So we're going to be bringing up the black point in the curve, and a really nice smooth roll off to it. Kind of warm in some images, so there's not a lot of split toning going on, but I think sometimes they add some orange into the shadows there and maybe a bit of blue to the highlights. It's a really nice fade to the entire image. You can really see that going on. Drop the clarity for that really smooth look, drop the sharpness for that really smooth natural look as well. This shot right here, trying to recreate its exact edit. So it was shot at 16mm, nice and wide, ISO 320, no need for a high one because we've got plenty of light. F5.6 because we want the entire image in focus, and a slow shutter of 30 because a wide focal length like 16, you don't need a sharp shutter because there's not a lot of camera shake at 16mm. It was shot on the Sony 16-35 2.8 G Master and a Sony A7 Mark III for the camera. So really high quality equipment, and then when you take out the clarity, take out the sharpening, you're left with a really smooth natural looking image. So I personally really like that, what they do to the images for those. We've done a one on that image before and this one, so I think this is our third on these guys. So personally really love this style, and we've also actually done one on this image here. So if you like the style, guys, come over and check out their blog. They're very active over there. So over here you can check out their about page, so a bit more about their story, their destinations, everywhere they've gone, and their travel blog, and get in contact with them. So head over here, I'll be linking it down in the description if you guys want to come check it out. And yeah, let's get into our tutorial. Okay, let's get into this edit. So first thing we'll do is come down, enable profile corrections, chromatic aberration there. Let's come back up and we'll just do some exposure. We'll just take out a bit of contrast, so highlights down, shadows up, and whites down, and we'll take our blacks up a lot. So that just takes out a whole lot of contrast. It would kind of be kind of similar to just doing that. Similar, but we're just going to take down each one, and then that gives us a bit more control. We won't take our blacks up just as much. Okay, so that's just going to take out contrast and give us room to add in contrast with the curves, which we'll do now. So I'll just quickly do the curves and then I'll explain the curves after I've done them. Let's come back up and we'll just do some exposure. We'll just take out a bit of contrast, so highlights down, shadows up, and whites down, and we'll take our blacks up a lot. So that just takes out a whole lot of contrast. It would kind of be kind of similar to just doing that. Similar, but we're just going to take down. Okay, so that's the curves done, and if I just show you what I did there, just a general S curve in the red, the green, and the blue. So taking just a touch more blue out of the shadows and blacks there, just giving a touch warmth. Otherwise I'm just adding in some contrast and yeah, and a bit of a pop to the highlights and midtones by lifting them up a bit there. So if I just turn the curves on and off, you can see how much richer our image gets. And then this curve here, this one's all about the fade, and you can see we have a nice gradual roll off, and that's just going to nicely transition that fade from the blacks into the shadows, and then we look like a tiny bit dropped in the midtones. So that's a little bit of a fade in the midtones there too, but nice gradual fade there. If we just reset that, you can see how those blacks get very harsh, and then we just get a really nice roll off fade there. And yeah, so if we just reset this real quick, so these curves are adding in contrast, as I said before, but what happens if we turn these off? As you can see, we lose all our contrast. Now you could add in contrast here, but it has a slightly different effect. So, and it gives you less control. Like I might want a little bit of blue in the shadows or something like that, and curves lets you do that. So I choose to do the contrast in the curves, and there is a difference. And then by doing such a harsh S-curve, you can do a nice gradual curve here, because if you don't try to do a fade with no contrast, your image will look way too washed out. Okay, so let's move on. So let's come down to calibration. Now they've been awesome enough to help me out with some of these settings, so it's pretty impossible to tell when people are working with calibration. And if I just quickly do these settings, okay, so as you can see, red primary that way, green primary. This is very, very common from what I see. I've edited a lot of photos now, and I always see them moving in these directions. The red primary going to the right, green to the right, and blue always to the left. So yeah, and as you can see, if I turn it on and off, it doesn't play a big role in this image at all, so don't worry about it too much. You can achieve that in the HSL, and you wouldn't have to work in the calibration so much. But let's carry on. If we come up, we don't need any split toning in this image. There's not a lot of color in our shadows. There's not a lot of color in our highlights. Let's work with the HSL. Now, I am going to come in and do a lot of brushing with the brushes and filters later. So just remember that later, that I'm going to be brushing a lot. So we have to take that into account, and our image isn't going to look exactly the same just yet. Especially clarity. I need a brush and clarity to really make those mountains stand out, the reflections to really pop. Very slight changes, so pretty hard to see. I'm just gonna whip through them. Aquas. So hue is the actual color, and you can shift any of these colors to a color next to it in the color wheel. Okay, let's roll with that for now. Let's go saturation, red. So just looking at these boats now, bring them down. Touch of oranges, yellows, down a touch, green. So we don't have many greens in this. Let's bring it down. We really want the aquas to pop a lot. You can see they play a really big role in this image. So let's bring it all the way up. not all the way, but a lot. Blues, I feel like we get a lot of blues in the mountains. We sort of don't want that. Let's bring that down a bit, and then that's going to really make our aquas stand out if we take out those blues. Magenta, not many in there. Purple, there's a few purples in there, and I think we want to keep them in there a bit, so let's just leave it there. Yeah, oh, there's a little bit of magenta there. Just keep that down though. Okay, luminance is the brightness and deepness of colors. So, okay, we'll work with the reds, and we want to look at things like that boat there again. We'll go for a nice deep red there. Oranges. Now we want a nice shine to those boats as well in the brighter areas. And what that is going to do is going to create nice contrast, because this boat has both red and orange in it, and that's going to create a really awesome color contrast between the deep reds and then the bright oranges on the boat. So there might be some yellows as well. No yellows in it. We'll just leave the yellows. Greens. There's a bit in the water and reflections. I'll bring it up for that glow to the water. And aquas. We want a nice shine to that water. So let's really bring it up. And then I'm going to come in and add clarity in that later. So I'm not too fussy right now, because I'm going to come in with brushes and fine tune everything. Okay, so that should be it. Our colors look really good now. Let's just move down to sharpening. So these guys have really natural, smooth looking images, and they're using really good glass, really good camera. So let's bring the sharpening down so we don't get any of that digital look to our photo. Nice, smooth, natural looking photo. And then grain, just a very small amount, just for a bit of texture. Okay, now we come to maybe the most important part of this edit, and we need to add in and like brush our image to make certain colors and textures pop. So first of all, and I've placed them all for you guys so we can go through this tutorial a bit quicker. So we've got this big filter here. We want to bring out the detail of the mountains and the sky, and yeah, so let's do that. So bringing down the highlights, you can see how we get so much of that texture back. We can see all those clouds in that. Let's bring that all the way down. Maybe some exposure. Yeah, good. Might try adding in some purple. Cool it off a bit. Right. Whites. Flatten it out a bit. And then I'm going to come in with brushes as well, so not too fussy here, just playing around. And then clarity is the most important one here, so this will slightly brighten it as well. See how that brightens everything a little bit. Okay, so now we get that grittiness to the mountains back there, really making it pop. So it's really ideal. So let's maybe move on to brushes now. Let's start with, let's go with this one maybe. And if I just press O or select this little box here, you can see where it's affecting. So pretty much the whole water. We don't want too many of those boats. We don't want our subject. And what we want to do is really bring out the detail. So bit of contrast will help the water shine. Definitely some clarity will help it shine pop maybe. Let's make it a bit more green by shifting the tint. And then maybe some warmth. That looks really good. Our water looks good. This area, so this is a really nice reflection here. I really want to make that one pop. So brush, and what we're going to do is just, again, dropping the highlights can bring out detail. Drop them a bit. Clarity, definitely. And that's going to brighten again. Contrast. Just bring down those whites again, just so it isn't too shiny. We want a glow, not too much of a crazy shine. Okay, we're good. Let's come up here, and if I just press O, you can see we're affecting. So mainly this area here, a bit of the sky. And what we want to do is just, let's drop the highlights again, get a bit more of that details. See how we get a few more of those clouds back if we drop it. Again, let's add in the amount of clarity we want to make things pop. And we've already done that with the filter that was coming over top, but we just want a bit extra. And then we just get a bit too much purple in that coming in. Let's drop the saturation there. And now if we click on this one, press O, and I just want to add more color into the sky by dropping the temperature, and that's just going to put in a lot more blues. And then saturation. And then just this filter here, we want to bring out this cloud coming over the mountain there. It already looks pretty good, but let's just add a bit more to it. Let's add some warmth. Or maybe before we do that, we should do this mountain here. So if I press O, let's just take out some colors of this mountain. It's sort of just showing too much purple. I think we added maybe too much in with that filter before. Let's drop that down, and then just take out purple by adding in its opposite color, green, and that takes out the purple. Okay, back to this one. We want to make sure this cloud looks nice and soft and smooth. What we'll do is just drop the clarity, just because we'll have the mountains really, their texture really stand out, and then just those nice soft clouds looks really nice. And then we just got to make sure our subject is standing out of this image. So if we just grab this filter, or let's go this one. So we just want them to really stand out, and let's just again, clarity. So overall this image will be really smooth and natural looking. We took out the sharpening, but then we've just added in clarity into certain areas, so everything will look really smooth, and then just some areas are really popping. But overall, so I wouldn't recommend adding clarity to the entire image in the down there and then brushing out the clarity. I'd rather keep the whole image smooth and brush in the clarity in just certain spots we want. Okay, so this one, if I just press O, just want to work on some skin tones here, so just add a bit of warmth and it will bring out those skin tones a lot. Let's just bring down the exposure a bit. In clarity, you want to keep your skin nice and smooth. It is pretty small. It is probably, this is paying really close attention to detail. Yeah, and then blacks will just keep some contrast. Again, let's do the hat. So obviously your hat like stands out a lot. So this one, press O. We're just trying to get that hat to have a bit more color and stand out a bit more. So to get that yellow color in the hat, let's just add in lots of warmth. Let's drop the blacks just to create more contrast, because we also want clarity. And just keep in mind, clarity adds in brightness as well to the image. Not all the time, because if you add clarity to a dark area, it will make that dark area darker. But if you add it to a semi-bright area, it will just make it more bright. And then let's just up the saturation here. And then we have that right there. And we look pretty good. I forgot to go over cropping right at the start. So if we just hit here, you can see what we did for cropping. So 4:5, we just went in a bit. And then if we come back, and what I forgot to do actually, what we need to do is come down to transform here. Now we just want this image to be perfectly straight for our eye just to guide down. So I'm just gonna get the horizontal and shift it a little bit this way. There, and you can see you could use these steps as a guideline to make sure you got it nice and straight. So you might think, why not rotate it to get this line nice and straight? So I could do rotate it, and now our line is pretty straight there, but our horizon starts to look a little off. The water isn't straight, so we are better off by using the horizontal one to do a twist, and then that keeps our horizon straight, and then we get that step perfectly straight. Our eye nicely just follows down into the image, and yeah, we are pretty good, guys. I might just leave it there. If I just hit reset, that's our before and after. So a really key part of this was brushing in that clarity, making certain things like the reflection pop and certain colors pop, making those clouds up there pop, and then bringing down the highlights, because bringing down the highlights reveals heaps of detail in the brighter areas. And then we brought down the luminance of the reds to make those deep reds contrast really well with the bright aquas and the bright oranges, creating really nice color contrast there. So that's about it, guys. Okay, that wraps up this video, guys. Hope you guys learned something. Comment down below what you guys have learned, what you guys want to see more of, what you don't quite understand. I know a lot of you want to learn the curves better. Quite hard to teach in these videos, but I have just come out with a course. It's not quite finished yet, but you get 50% off if you order now and lifetime access. So go down in the description and watch the video. The number one thing you need to know when editing photos. So go do that. You guys go give them a follow down in the description and comment on one of their photos that you found them through this tutorial. So do that for me, and definitely comment people that don't have many followers but have really good images, because then I go through all the comments and then I reach out to them on Instagram, ask them to send it in a photo, and then I do a tutorial on them. So yeah, that's about all, guys. Expect a lot more videos. I'm going to be working hard on the course to make it the #1 photo editing course in the world. You guys get all my raw images. You guys can follow along the whole process, and there'll be lots of things I'm touching on over there that I'm not touching on in these tutorials. Yeah, that's all for now, guys. Comment down below who you guys want to see, and I'll catch you in the next one.